to my channel. Thank you for watching. My name's Shelley, and today I'm going to be showing you doing a quick tutorial on how to make one of my favourite patterns at the moment, which is the Tilly and the Buttons Coco dress. Now, I've had lots of lovely comments from all my videos, and people have been asking me to do some more tutorials, so I thought as this was one of my favourite things to make at the moment, I would do a tutorial on how to make it. I did mention that I was going to be making it in my May sewing plans video, and for those of you that watched it, this is the fabric that I'm going to be making it from. It's a scuba fabric, which I absolutely love. Tilly and the Buttons pattern recommends that you use a heavy stretch fabric, something like a Ponte Roma, but the scuba fabric I find is just as good, and I actually think that scuba fabrics come in more patterns and colours, so I'm doing it in this, and hopefully once I've done it you'll be inspired to make one too. So here we go. So the first thing you need to do is obviously lay your fabric and place your pattern pieces on it and cut out the pieces, which I have already done. There are no darts to put in on this Coco dress, but there are notches on the actual pattern pieces that are really important to put in, especially around the sleeves, because that will help you line up the sleeves so that you know which is the front sleeve and which is the back sleeve. So do put your notches in, it is really important. And what I do is I just do a little snip with my scissors in the notch, just so I know where it is. And on one sleeve it's got one notch, and on another sleeve it's got two notches, and that helps you identify the back and the front. So please do that first, it's really important. But as I said, that's all you need to do. There are no other darts. It's a really lovely easy pattern to do, and that's the first thing you need to do. So obviously the next thing I need to do now is take out the pins, which I'm going to do, and the pattern asks me to stay stitch the neckline of the front and the back bodice, and what that means is that I've got to put a little stitch all the way around the neckline, just 3/8 of an inch from the edge, and what that does is it helps to stop the fabric from stretching, the neck from stretching when you're actually sewing, because on these stretch fabrics they can easily stretch out and then the actual garment won't sit right. So you have to put this stay stitch all the way around the neckline on the front and the back, and it won't show because it's inside the seam allowance, so it won't show at all. So I'm just going to do that now. There we go. So as you can see, I've put the stay stitching all the way around the neckline. You can just see it there. It's not too far from the edge, 3/8 of an inch from the edge, and what that does, it keeps the neckline from going out of shape when you're sewing it. So it's really important that you do this stage, and I'll just go ahead and do it on the back bodice too. Now once you've done that, the next thing you need to do is stabilize the shoulder seams, and that is also because they can stretch out during sewing too when you're using a stretch fabric. So to do that, you can either use just a piece of ribbon or some sort of tape, but you can also buy something called a stabilizing tape, which is just like about a centimetre wide, and it irons straight on, a bit like interfacing, and it's not very expensive. I bought this on Amazon, I think I got this. So yeah, so I put this onto the shoulder seams, and what that does, it stops the actual shoulders from stretching out whilst you're sewing. So I'll just go and do that now, and you have to do that on either the front or the back bodice. You don't need to do it on both, just do it on one, and that will stabilize both when you sew them together. So I'm going to go and put that on now, and then I'll get back to you. So I've done that. I hope you can see it. Obviously it's white on white, so it's a little bit difficult to see. You put it 3/8 of an inch from the edge of the fabric. So when you sew the shoulder seams together, it sews over the top, and it keeps the fabric from stretching. As I said, this is an iron-on stabilizer, but you can buy stabilizers which you have to sew on, and you just do a little zigzag stitch all the way over the top to sew them on. So it's as easy as that. that. And the next thing you have to do is put the back and front bodices together and sew them at the shoulder seams. Now you put the shoulder seams together, right sides together, matching the notches that are actually in the shoulder seams. That's why the notches are so important to do. And I like to pin mine together. I know some people who are quite happy and confident will just sew across, but I actually like to pin mine together to make sure that the fabric doesn't slip and that they are exactly where I want them to go. Also, if you want to do a tack over the top of that, then obviously do that, and that will make it even more secure. So I'm just going to pin those together right on where the notches match and ensuring that the seams exactly line up. Okay, so I've now got them pinned together. I'm going to take them to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew both shoulder seams. So I've sewn both shoulder seams together. You might be able to just see that I've used a little zigzag stitch, which on my machine is a stretch stitch. If you're using some sort of stretchy fabric like scuba fabric, it's a really a good idea to use, rather than a straight stitch, a stretch stitch, because what that means is that when you're actually sewing the garment, it helps to stop the garment from stretching, and also when you're actually wearing it, it actually makes the garment stretch out slightly, because if you've got just a straight stitch in it, the stitches can break if you haven't got this slight zigzag. So my machine's got a stretch facility. Not all machines do. If yours hasn't, you can put your machine onto the smallest zigzag stitch and that will do the same job. So I would highly recommend that if you're using some sort of stretch fabric, that you do use the stretch stitch on your machine, or a zigzag. And also I always put in a special stretch needle as well, because that also helps. So I've done the actual shoulder seams now, and I'm going to move on to the next part of the pattern. So the next part of the pattern asks you to turn under the neckline like that and iron it into position, and then what you do is you sew around the neckline with a small zigzag edge, and that becomes your neckline. Now that can be a little bit tricky to do because you've sewn the shoulder seams already, so it is a little bit fiddly and a little bit tricky. You've just got to persevere with it. A good thing to do as well is I always, even though I've done a stay stitch all around the neckline, I also put some stabilizer tape around the neckline, so just so that it makes it additionally secure from stretching out once I'm sewing it, and then your neckline will lay super flat. But you don't have to do that because you have got the stay stitching already, but I just do it as an extra kind of thing to do. And the pattern does say, it does give it as a tip and says if you want to do that, then do so. So I'm going to go and put the stay stitching all the way around the neck, and then I'm going to turn the neckline under by about 3/8 of an inch, and you hide the stitching that you've got. It hides it. Press it, and once you've pressed it, you then need to sew with a small zigzag stitch or a stretch stitch all the way around the top of the neckline, and that becomes your finished neckline. So there's no flapping around with putting on neck bands or anything like that. This really is a simple pattern, and it's as easy as that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I'm going to go and press it under, put the stay stitch on, and then I'm going to sew around the neckline and get that part of it completed. Okay, so there we go. I've put the fold over onto wrong sides together, and a little zigzag stitch or a stretch stitch on your machine all the way around the top of the neckband, and then you get a nice neckband all the way around. The inside you can leave, you don't even have to finish the seams because it's a stretch fabric and stretch fabric doesn't fray. So you don't actually even need to finish the seams on that one. And on the inside of the shoulder seams, I just use some pinking shears. So I don't even finish the inside of the shoulder seams or any of the seams really on a stretch fabric because it doesn't fray. I just pinking shear it off. So yeah, so that's that done. That's the neckline done. As I say, it can be a little bit tricky to do, especially trying to iron stretch fabric because often it doesn't lay flat. So if you find it tricky, what I do sometimes is I pin it over, just put some pins in, and you can even then just put a tacking stitch all the way around to hold it in place if you want to, and that obviously will help a lot. But sometimes, as I say, I just put pins in and I just sew it with the pins in. So there it is, all stitched up together. And now the next thing that I need to do is put in the sleeves. These are really easy to attach because there's no easing the sleeves in. They're attached flat onto the actual bodice. And this is where the notches come in handy. If you can see there, you've got a double notch there and a single notch there on each of the sleeves. And wherever you've got a double notch, that's where that means that goes onto the back part of the sleeve, the back bodice, and the single notch goes onto the front part of the bodice, so you know what's the back and what's the front. So the sleeve armhole looks like this. So it's just a long armhole all the way from the sides all the way around to the other side, and you literally just attach the sleeve onto the sleeve armhole, matching up the notches. You can see there's a double notch there and a single notch there, and you put the sleeve and the bodice right sides together, matching the notches, and it just literally is just putting them together straight all the way across, no easing in at all. So I'll just go and do that now, and I like to pin it in place. Again, some people, if you're confident, you could just sew it straight away just by holding them in place together, but I like to pin it. And again, you can also always tack it in place if you feel like you want to absolutely be sure that it is sitting in the right place. So I'm just going to put them right sides together and pin them together. So there we go, I've pinned them all right sides together, and now I'm going to take it to the machine and sew the sleeve all the way from one edge all the way round to the other edge, and it really is as easy as that. Okay, so I've sewn the sleeve all the way round from one end to the other. I've kept my stretch stitch or a very, very small zigzag because the fabric is stretchy. And now what I like to do to finish the seam is use my pinking shears to finish it off, because as I said, you don't need to finish these seams in any other way because stretch fabric doesn't fray. So that's really nice and simple. I'm just going to pinking shear them off. So here they are with the pinking shears cut all the way around them. And the next thing to do is press the sleeve, and you press the sleeve towards the, you press the seam, sorry, towards the sleeve. And just to let you know, I've done a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance on this, and the pattern calls for a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance the whole way, apart from the neckline. So I'm going to press them towards the sleeve, and also I have opted to do the short sleeve version. You can do any length you like, short sleeve, 3/4 length, full length, but for this one, because it's a summery fabric, I've opted to do the short sleeve. So I'm going to go and press them, and then I'm going to do the other sleeve in exactly the same way. So the sleeves are both in, and it's coming along really nicely. I'm really pleased with it. There you go, there's one there and the other one on this side. And this pattern now calls for you sewing up the side seam and the sleeves together. So you sew all the way from one edge of the sleeve all the way down all the way down the side seam. So it's just sewn in one long strip and it's right sides together. What you have to make sure is that when you sew the other side, you also start at the same end. So if you're starting at the sleeve end, sewing all the way down, do that on both sides. Or if you're starting at the bottom, sewing up, do that on both sides, so that it keeps the fabric falling in the same way. So that's quite an important thing to remember to do. So I'm now going to go ahead and pin the sleeves and side seams together, and then I'm going to sew them with a 5 1/8 seam allowance. So I'm just pinning them together. The first thing you need to do is make sure that you match the seams under the arms. Match those two parts together first, and then there are notches along the way down the side seam to match up as well, so that you get it exactly evenly matched. So I've pinned all the way along the side seam, all the way through to the sleeve seam, and now I'm going to take it to the machine with a 5/8 inch seam allowance and sew all the way down from the sleeve all the way down to the hem. So I've sewn all the way down now, keeping in with my stretch stitch or small zigzag stitch if you haven't got a stretch stitch. And once again, to finish these seams, I'm going to use my pinking shears to pinking shear them off, and then I'm going to press them open, and I'm going to do the same, exactly the same on the other side. So I've sewn it all up down the sides and I'm really pleased with it. It is now resembling a dress. So I'm really happy, if you can just see that. The next thing I need to do is sew the sleeve hems and the hem of the dress. I'm going to take the sleeve hems and the hem up by 1 centimetre. That's all I need, but obviously you can fit it and measure it to your own requirements. And once I've done that, the garment's finished. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the hem now, and then I'll get back to you. So the dress is finished and I'm absolutely thrilled with it. I'll pop a video in to show you what it looks like. I absolutely love this pattern, the Tilly and the Buttons Coco dress. It's so easy to do. I would highly recommend anybody to have a go at it, especially beginners, as there's no zips or buttonholes, and it really is easy to follow. It's got simple to follow instructions and it can be sewn up very quickly. So I'm extremely happy with it as always. I've now made about 4 or 5 of these and I'm sure that I will be making some more. So have a go because you'll really love the outcome of the dress. It's really lovely. So thank you. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I hope it's been of some help to people. If you'd like to see some more tutorials of mine, please put a thumbs up for this video and please subscribe to my channel, and hopefully I'll get some more coming along to you shortly. But thanks again for watching and happy sewing with the Coco dress. So bye for now. Bye.